Go on then. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The imps are here to stay. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The imps are here to stay.
Morning all, how are we doing? We're back out in the wolds of Lincolnshire. The dog's decided he wants to go the long way round. Hopefully he won't be chasing deer today, so we might get a full showing. There's not a lot of action in terms of traffic. We might go through this one uninterrupted. And it's not going to be a long chat. It's going to be a look at the concept of togetherness and what's prompted this. And apologies if it's your tweet that's done it. I can't remember who had done it, but there was a comment yesterday after the Manchester City game. So as I understand it, there was some agitation in the Man City game and everyone said, oh, they were a team together. And there was a comment, or maybe even seen it twice, that imagine that, a team together, and with the smiley face, as if insinuating that at some point in the past, Lincoln City have been together and are now not. And the concept of togetherness, I think, is quite an interesting one. And that's what's prompted it. And this isn't me replying directly to whoever tweeted. It's me just putting some thoughts out there about how we get dewy-eyed about the past and ignore what it was actually like. And this kind of, I think this is really relevant to the last 5 years, because I think amongst some people, and I'm happy to be corrected, I think amongst some people, there is a genuine feeling that something has been lost around the football club. I see comments about, and this has again been prompted partly about the Stacey West announcement, the ground, comments around, it's corporate, the club are losing their identity, blah, blah, blah. I see that quite a lot. And it amuses me. Well, it doesn't actually, it pisses me off, but it amuses me as well, because there's this idea, there's this ideal that what has gone before was better than what we have now. That's, the general feeling from some of those who, kind of have that negative outlook. And when something fits that narrative, which potentially the Stacey West announcement could, it doesn't in my mind, but I can see the comments that some people are making. I don't get those that are indignant on behalf of the people that put the bond in, but didn't put any money in themselves. That's absolutely mad. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like, somebody's roof, or I don't know, I can't even think of an analogy. It's that mad. It's that mad, getting angry at somebody, getting angry at something that doesn't affect you on behalf of people it does affect who are not angry about it. Wow. Anyway, I'm not really looking at that as a reason for the people could be angry at the Stacey West or could be upset about it. I get how we wanted, or some fans wanted, an uplifting capacity. They don't see the benefit to just expanding for the foundation. They don't see the benefit in doing it modular. They think the money could be better spent elsewhere, which it can't. By the way, it's grant money predominantly. The bond money couldn't be spent anywhere else, has to be spent on the ground. If we then said, right, the money's now going to the playing staff, that would be wrong. So I can understand how it's kind of wound people up. I get it. But then there's this sense of it's just another in a long line of things that's degrading this wonderful family club that we used to have. And Lincoln City has always tried to be a family club. That's part of the problem, because a lot of football fans don't think the football should be a family thing. Should be about lining up 10,000 Jaegers on a bar at 11 o'clock in a strange town and being generally antisocial and behaving in a way that you wouldn't behave in your own town. And I was guilty of it when I went to Cambridge. We were singing in a pub at 11:30 in the morning, because that's what football fans do. That was when we felt together there. But there would have been Lincoln City fans who had gone to that game with their kids who walked past that pub and gone, I'm not going in there, because it sounds a little bit over and above. So that togetherness is felt by individual groups, but certainly wasn't felt by the whole fan base. And that's, I'm not saying that did happen. What I'm saying is that it's an example of how you can feel together and you can feel connected, but actually other people do not at the same time. And I think a lot of this goes back to the 2016-17 season, because anybody that tries to tell me that this football club was together prior to 2016-17, from really around Keith Alexander's time, right, you're off your rocker if that's genuinely what you try and tell me, because it was never together. Even in the later days of Keith, you know, before the internet and social, well, before social media, not before the internet. Bloody hell, I'm getting like them Dean Dorries there. Before social media, really, you know, there was people moaning in the Echo and in the pubs and on the letters pages saying, Keith's taken as far as we can. And we look back now on that, we say, oh, if Keith had never left, you know, what golden times they were. I was heartbroken when he left. Actually, there was a huge section of the fan base at the time was saying that taking them as far as we go. I remember reading some program notes specifically that Keith wrote about a game that we played against Darlington, where there was the booing at the end of the game during Keith's era, booing at the end of the game. And you know, you'll say at that time there's metaphors in that time, because in similes rather at that time, because you'll look back and, you know, people who were positive at that time would be going, well, look where we've come from. We nearly went out of business in the summer of 2003. We fought 2002. We fought hard. We've been to 3 playoff finals. And other people have gone, but we can't live in the past. And then when Keith goes and John Schofield comes in and we do well, and then it collapses, it's, oh, what I won't give for that togetherness from the Keith team. You know, that fighting spirit. That fighting spirit was great until you were losing FA Cup ties away at Carlisle or drawing at home to Darlington in unentertaining games. And then the togetherness went away, because, you know, togetherness is only really there when you're winning, isn't it? And that's why it's easy for Manchester City. It's easy to be together when you're winning Champions League quarterfinals. Success does bring togetherness. Well, does it? I mean, we didn't have to worry about success bringing togetherness from about 2007 to, you know, 2015, 16, did we? You know, and there was a sense of togetherness coming when Chris Moyes first came in. But there was still the backlash. There was still the people digging their heels in, having a pop. He wasn't good enough. One of my first blogs was a reaction to people swearing and arguing with Chris after a defeat at Wrexham altogether. 2016, 17, no, that was it, when we were all together then, travelling all over the country, you know, watching us play at York and North Ferriby, and, you know, winning FA Cup ties, and oh, what a season of togetherness that was. Yeah, let's not whitewash history. That season was beset with arguments about who was more worthy for tickets. And then 2000 came out against Burnley and 6,000 people wanted to go. Who was more worthy? There was no togetherness. Oh, sure, there was togetherness from the 2,000 people that saw Sean Raggett score. There was togetherness in the fact that everybody thought that was a good thing. Of course it was a good thing. But there was no togetherness. The club were at fault. They were shambolic for the way they did the Arsenal tickets. I remember going to pick my Arsenal ticket up, and a guy pulled up in a Works van. Went absolutely apoplectic with rage at the ticket staff, because he couldn't buy 5 tickets for him and his mates. He's been coming to watch Lincoln since the 80s, all these new fans. How's that together? And social media, go back and have a look. Awash with agitators winding up about plastics, about new fans, about the club won't forget themselves through the success. Let's not forget who helped them through. Be amazed. Tell you, supporting Lincoln 2011 to 2016 is a little bit like going to the Lesser Free Trade Hall in Manchester in 1976 to see the Sex Pistols. Be amazed how many was there, but if you were actually there, you'd be amazed how many later claimed that they were. And it's not a competition, but it was. That was what we were split about. I remember arguments about York in the FA Trophy. Now the FA Trophy is derailing the promotion campaign. We've got our priorities wrong. Again, not togetherness, was it? Easy to be together when Terry Hawkridge pops the second ball in against Macclesfield, because everybody's got what they want at that point. There can't be any criticism at that point. So sure, we were together then. Then over the summer, the next following season, again, no. The run to the Checkatrade Trophy, we were arguing like cat and dog, weren't we? Arguing like, I don't know, the Metropolitan Police and Boris Johnson, because the Checkatrade Trophy was a waste of time. I mean, it brought some money in, but people had their beliefs around that competition and still do. Lots and lots of people had their beliefs when we were in the group stages. But only a handful of those people had those beliefs when we got to Wembley, didn't they? Yeah, they're the ones that have got my respect. A lot of people kind of went, no, do you know what? Now we're at Wembley. Now we're at Wembley. My principles aren't so tough. But we were apart again, because there was lots of baiting in the run up to Wembley. Will you be going? Won't you be going? Why are you going to miss it? So let's not pretend that 2 years from the 3 most successful years that we've had in what I would class almost living memory. And okay, it's not. Living memory goes back to the 50s. So that's wrong. But my memory is a Lincoln City fan. Most successful period in my time supporting. And we were definitely fractured during the 2016-17 season, and we look back on it fondly now because all those people that were hacked off that they might not get tickets, got tickets, went to the games, enjoyed it, but they forget how divisive some of their comments were. 2016-17, 2018, 17-18, 2018-19, we won League Two. You know, a championship, the first football league title that we'd won since 1976. And on the final game of the season, people walked out. Remember that? Losing 3-0 to Colchester in an awful game. People left because we'll get trounced in League One. We've got no ambition, we've got no passion. We're not going to do it. We'd lost a couple of games before, drawn a couple of games before. Yeah, sure, we were together when we went away to MK Dons. It's not hard to be together when you're basically playing the... My doggy's all the way over there. What the hell is he doing? When you're playing against the pantomime villains, is it? Go to NK, franchise football, whatever you want to call them, and then beat them 2-1, effectively seal the title. Easy to be together. And some people were saying, oh, that noise behind the goal, that's what this should come from the Stacey West. You would not get that from giving the home Stacey West to the home fans. First of all, you wouldn't have 5,000 people there. You wouldn't have the only 5,000 people supporting Lincoln there. It doesn't happen like that. Those moments are 1 in a million. So it was easy to be together on the way home from MK Dons. 2-3 weeks later, we were arguing like cat and dog because people were walking out, other people were saying you're not proper supporters. Togetherness. Funny concept, isn't it? When Danny Cowley left, split the fan base. People calling him, people coming out with revelations about, what bad people they were. Funnily enough, some of those people are now saying if only we had the togetherness that we had under Danny and Nicky. Wow. Togetherness. In fact, do you know what? I wonder if one of the only times we were actually together was last season. To a degree, was last season. Because when Michael came in, there were people already calling for his head by the end of the October. Were we going to stay up? Weren't we going to stay up? Probably the early days of Michael, we were more together as a fan base than we were in 2016-17. Not because we weren't getting the success particularly, certainly not for the first 6 months of Michael being there, but there was a kind of, wow, Danny's left us, these times are over, let's get together and press on. And there were dissidents, there were people who claimed that the club were going down, but again, it wasn't as negative. And last season, I think because we had other things to worry about, didn't we? Not being in the ground, not being able to watch Lincoln, we were top of the league, but there were still people saying the EFL trophy will derail it. There was still not togetherness. So it was just this concept of we've lost togetherness. It's just madness. Football's never together. And Manchester City have won in a European Cup or a Cup of Champions League quarter-final, and they've showed grit and determination to win the game, and they're suddenly together. And we were together as a fan base and as a playing squad a couple of weeks ago at Charlton when we put in a performance, fighting against the odds, getting the points, everybody coming away. I mean, there's still that undercurrent of is Michael right or wrong? You're entitled to your opinion on that. Is Michael the right man for the job? Still think he is, but that you're entitled to your opinion. But then if you're taking the Stacey West development kind of issue and using that against Michael, well, if we'd got up to the championship, we would still have put the extra seats in. No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't have put the extra seats in. Stacey West development being scaled back has nothing at all to do with the manager, has nothing at all to do with how we're doing on the pitch. And it's crazy to imagine that it does. It's entirely to do with rising costs. It's entirely to do with the climate at the point at which we've decided to try and build a new stand. And it's not poor management on the club side, because this was basically something that was planned before the pandemic. So it's easy now, it's easy with hindsight now to start saying things like, I never trusted in the bond anyway. Well, when you say at the time, and some people did, I'll give them that, some people did. Not really very together though, is it? I'm not, it infuriates me at times because it seems impossible for people to have an opinion and express it without any level of acceptance from the other side, if you know what I mean. They're not willing to concede any points, and one or two are, and I'll hold my hands up. There are one or two people who I speak to who they may think this is aimed at them, and it isn't. There are people who I see have an opinion, take facts, alter their opinion a little bit. Nick Proctor yesterday did something not I'm not talking about changing his opinion. I'm about forming an opinion, getting more information, and then not changing the opinion completely, but reforming certain parts of it. I buy that. Martin Green, I've had a little bit of to and from with this morning. I like Martin because you can have the discussion with Martin without it suddenly being, well, you're a club-centric bum licker or whatever, because people do that. Ben's not doing the podcast this week. Do you know why? Because he expresses an opinion, and people, rather than expressing an opinion back in any sort of manner, they'll verbally attack him and they'll send it in his inbox. He gets it more than I do, a lot more than I do. And so he's not doing it. It's not in case he's going to take a break from the podcast for a week just to avoid that. It's toxic. Togetherness. When were we ever together? Sorry. You know what? This wasn't meant to be a rant. I don't do rants. I don't like that, that kind of, when people put stuff on social media in capital letters and then they go rant over. It's not for me, that. It's not for me. But I don't know, I think it's just this concept, it's this dewy-eyed kind of, things were so much better back then. And all they were better in, honestly and truthfully, was on the pitch. Was it really better when you wanted to buy tickets for a big game, a big home game, that you had to go and take a day off work and go and queue? Was that better? Do we want to go back to those days? And Liam Scully as well. Liam gets so much hassle and stick. Right, I like Liam, hands up. I don't mind saying that. You call me a sycophant, call me what you want. But he gets so much abuse. Like the Stacey West development. It's Scully's plan. He wants it all to be corporate. What? First of all, it's a board thing. Liam doesn't make the huge financial decisions like that. He's involved, but he doesn't make those decisions. Why is it his fault? Why is it his fault? Why does he just want corporate? Why are we? Here we go. Why are we so against corporate? Why are we so against putting in a row of executive boxes in the new stand that will probably yield more than actual seats? Because executive boxes will sell more or less no matter who you're playing, because you're not going just to watch the game. You're going with your business or your family. You're paying 25, 50 quid a seat. It's a day out. Morecambe coming to Sinsel Bank. Okay, they might go down. Fleetwood, Forest Green. Yeah, we could have 10,000 extra seats. They're still only going to sell 50 of them. So actually, the corporate plan puts more money in the bank. And then people are like, it's real fans missing out. How? We barely ever sell out games. How is putting corporate boxes in the Stacey West development real fans missing out? How is that the case? I did challenge a couple of people on that yesterday. The match day experience, it's at the cost of the match day experience. No, it's not. It's a few extra windows. Do you know what? Actually, I'm surprised because my argument with it is that we're getting the height on the Stacey West, losing the view of the cathedral. That would be what I would be kind of getting a little bit upset about. But if those executive boxes go in, they're a good fundraiser for the club. And why are we so against corporate people coming in? Do you know, it's like the presentation evening. I'm not going, 90 quid a pop. Too rich for me, that. Aimed at me. And they go, it's taken away from the fans who used to be able to see the player of the year given on the pitch. Well, the fans player of the year will already be given on the pitch. And the club are going to make some money out of people who are willing to pay the £90. A lot of the time, when the player of the year things, the ground half emptied when they were given anyway. We get indignant about things. It goes back to the air raid siren and the dam busters, doesn't it, as well? How many people realise that the supporters board were the ones that 1 month before we stopped playing the dam busters voted for it to be played again, and until that point it hadn't been played all season? How many people notice that? Very, very, very few. Very few. But, and I think it was a bit of an own goal by the club, even to announce it, they could have just dropped it, because you know what, nobody would have noticed. But it's announced, and all of a sudden we're stripping away the heritage. The club only put the heritage back 4 weeks ago, but there was no outcry on social media about, wow, the club are coming back to our heritage, getting the dam busters, it's bloody great. Nobody did that, did they? Because positivity doesn't sell. Positivity makes you look like a bum licker, and no one wants to be a bum licker. No, but when it comes to criticism, that's what we want. And criticism is always, well, you've got to ask questions. You've got to be a critical voice. You can't let them get away with everything. But it is everything we criticise. And I'm up for debate about the Stacey West. I absolutely am. But I tell you something, I've given up with 90% of people. I've given up because there is no winning. Pointless doing it if there aren't any extra seats. Tell me about the rest of the plan then, Mr. Miserable Bastard. Well, I don't know about the rest of the plan. It's all about those extra seats. But the same person 3 months ago when it came out would have been saying, why are we getting extra seats? We don't sell out anyway. What a waste of money. We should put it into the playing squad. Can't put it into the playing squad though, Jack, can we? Not Jack, anybody. I'm just, Jack as a general. It's not Jack Mulhawks. He would never say that. If anyone thinks that, my apologies. Or Bill or John or whoever. Because it's grant money, isn't it? Grant money that has to be spent, otherwise it goes back. So we either do something with the Stacey West or nothing. Well, it's better for nothing if we don't put the extra seats in, isn't it? So what? So you can sit in the co-op stand and look at the extra seats on 20 games a season or whatever. The Stacey West development was never purely about those extra seats. And it is a shame that there will not be scope for that. But if those boxes do sell out, and it is hard having the boxes with the away fans in front, I've been there before, it creates all manner of issues. It does, I get that. But they're more likely to sell out than the actual seats in the stand. Togetherness. What would be togetherness? More seats, and then people turn up and they go, oh, we don't sell out the seats anyway, do we? There's only one thing that brings togetherness at a football club: winning matches. That's it. And there'll be people I know who will be looking at this and go, well, Michael should be winning more matches then. The last 5 years have been very, very special for this football club, and we've won more matches, certainly over, probably not up to this season, but certainly Michael's playoff season, from Danny's, from the 2016-17 season to last season. We've won more matches, I would say, as a percentage of the games we've played than probably at any other period in our career. I'd have to look that up. But I would say that that's probably the case. It's probably been a 5-year period with more success than any other before. And we still weren't together. We were still arguing about things. We were still saying, this is wrong, that's wrong. And unfortunately, people do that because a lot of them have got access to Weald. And I'm not naming names, but there are some people where I see them commenting on everything negative. And it's because something's happened to them personally from the club. Something Liam has done or something the club have done that Liam has announced has personally affected them. And it might be the stewards, the stewards being let go. It might be the turnstile operators. It might be the dropping of the season ticket concession age, or the raising of the season ticket concession age. It could be any of those things. And that immediately puts them on their back foot. And let's face it, perhaps if I had been poacher up until Liam came in and then he had said, look, you're not professional enough, we're going to let you go, we're going to bring someone else in. Everything he said, I would probably have looked at and gone, do you know what? He's a knob. So I get it. But togetherness. And can I just say, by the way, Peter Gaines on the line. Morning, Gary. Peter Gaines, still one of the best footballers I've ever seen in a Lincoln City shirt. Morning, Peter. And like I say, even going back to Gainey's time, the team occasionally getting booed off during Keith's era for no reason other than the fact that it had been an uninspiring draw against Darlington. Of course, we were together in the Millennium Stadium. Or at Huddersfield when we lost the playoff semi-final. 2,000 people all wanting the same thing can not be together, but then there would still be something in the weeks afterwards. I don't mean to rant. I genuinely don't mean to rant. And it has turned into that. Because I despair. I despair at times. So, right, let's have a look through some comments. This has gone on longer than I actually thought. I spent half of the morning walk with the dog trying to set that awful video up at the beginning, which didn't really work. I'll have to do another one. Sean Simons, morning pal, hope you're well. Mr. Freeston, I think there are some elements of the fan base who have a particular sense of entitlement after 3 trophies in 5 years. I agree. Entitlement is something that comes naturally with football fans anyway, I think, to a degree. You always feel, if you're in, like when we're in the National League, well, we're bigger than this league. We should be beating teams like this. It's natural, but it's when it runs away with you and we're thinking, oh, we should be in the Championship. We should be having Brennan Johnson style players every year. It doesn't happen. James Atkin, morning, mate. Hope you're well. Mr. Hampson, dropped my 6-year-old at football this morning for a day of football and learning. How is that evil commercial? Surely it's community. If we get the grant funding to improve facilities, what's not to like? Don't get the backlash. Yeah, the foundation is a vastly underrated asset to the football club, not the football team. And I did a little tweet on that yesterday about the difference between the team and the club. Lincoln City Football Club is not the 11 players that go out every Saturday. And the outreach to the community, I've spoke about, my relative who's personally benefit from the foundation. We're hoping to get Martin Hickerton who leads the foundation on the podcast, to maybe talk a little bit about it, and people won't listen, and that's the truth, because as I say, negativity sells, and some people are not interested in anything that goes on at the football club outside of a Saturday, unfortunately. Richard Cross, Appleton is the man to take us forward, but is it only financial? How long are we prepared to stay in League One and mid-table finishes every year, selling players every year? Honestly, Richard, in my opinion, indefinitely, because this is the first time in my life Lincoln City have been a mid-table League One side, and if we remain a mid-table League One side for the next 20 years, I'll take that over being bottom 4 in the National League. I'll take that being just on the cusp of the playoffs in League Two. Genuinely, I would. And Peterborough have had to put up with that for quite a while, selling players every year, the dream seemingly going down the tube and then turning it back around. I take that, and I think that kind of plays into this. You've always got to be moving forward. And I remember thinking last season when Michael had us in the playoffs and in the top thing, if we go up, where next? Premier League? I don't think so. There's a ceiling that you reach, and when you reach that ceiling, you kind of end up making bad decisions, I think. And I think some clubs have in the past. Sheffield United, for instance, sacking Chris Wilder, you could say perhaps didn't make the right decision because they wanted to kick on to the next level, and only so many clubs can go on to the next level. Morning to Will Mitson. Hope you're well, pal. Morning to Bry Fox. Looking back over 55 years, I'd say happily stay in League One, Richard. There we go. Will Mitson says I'm spot on. Not sure who that is for. Steve Bond, you need rose-tinted glasses to see the mirage of togetherness. You certainly do. You certainly need subjective glasses. John Battersby, top man, spot on ran Gary. Remember distinctively the week in February 2017 when BAMS went into meltdown with 10,000 new members, mostly coming on with gripes of all kinds. I'm a bigger fan than you, blah, blah, blah. Exactly. Togetherness. Robert Haddon, morning Gary. Opinions voiced on Facebook this morning on the news that Liam Bridcut is out due injuries for the rest of the season or a disgrace to all true imps. I haven't seen that. Remember, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone has one. I know he's out for the rest of the season. Sounds quite dramatic, but it's 4 games. It's an issue around the squad. I get that. Of course, it's an issue. Liam Bridcut's a good player, but he's not a good player if he only plays 14 games a season. So I'd like to see him still around the place next year, but I think that we've got to get a replacement, somebody who can play 40 games in that role for us to be a success. Clive Smith, morning Gary. We're a victim of the current world war and rising costs. It's going to change people's plans as well as football club plans. Yeah, these costs were rising long before the war in Ukraine. I notice how Boris Johnson's using that as Boris Johnson's supporters using that as a reason for him not to resign, isn't it? There's a war on. Seem to think John Major took over from Margaret Thatcher during operations in Iraq. Obviously, we changed Prime Minister in 1940. I think that the problem with rising costs, etc., has been much to do with the pandemic and Brexit, if I'm honest. But I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. Eddie Harrison, if you asked me a few weeks ago why the club wanted to redevelop Stacey West, I would have said about adding the community education facilities. For me, the increased capacity was secondary. Hope the improvements are still happening. Yeah, happy the improvements are still happening. Yeah, me too. Leslie Graves, some people seem to think it was all about increasing capacity, which it never was. Quite right. You didn't put which it never was. I've added that bit. Mr. Barwise, absolutely spot on as usual, Gary. It's not a rant. Hope Ben is okay. Me too. Corporate is the way forward, whether the fans like it or not, especially if we have aspirations of ever getting close to the championship. Good point. And do you know what the issue is? Corporate will never take over from the fans. The corporate is where the bigger money is. And if you have that insane fear of corporate, the best thing to do is find a non-league team that don't attract corporate fans and kind of have that realism. And it's a double-edged sword. If you want to get to the championship, revenue streams have to change. It was the same with the betting partner the other year on the shirt. If we'd taken the gambling partner on the front of shirt, okay, we got Peregrine in the end, and they put decent amount in to cover that. But teams do that and kick on. It's where you fall in that, isn't it? You can't, unfortunately, in this world, always be ethical, always be fan-centric, and be successful. You have to find the balance, and I think that's what the club try and do. They don't always get it right, but they don't always get it wrong either. Keith Fletcher, these people just want an excuse to argue. Some people do, yes. Some people have got genuine concerns, genuine debates, that sort of thing. And I think that's what really kind of gripes me a lot, is people who will just say that's rubbish, we should be doing this, then end up getting lumped in with the same people who go, I'm not a fan of this because. And difference of opinion is hugely important. And if you've got a valid reason to question a decision or something that the club do, hats off to you, fair play. Why not? Why not question it? Why, but do it in the right way and be prepared to change your view if something comes along that makes you think about it. And if someone comes on and goes, you've changed your tune, go, yeah, I have, because I'm a reasonable fucking person who understands what opinion is. Opinion is something that can be changed. Opinions are like clothes, they can be changed. Carl Mercer, I doff my cap to you, sire. Spot on. Thank you, Carl. Good to see you, my friend. Richard Cross says, Brian was saying it's get a discussion. I'm happy to stay in League One, but some people won't. But yeah, I get that. Yeah, you're quite right, Richard. Some people aren't. Some people always want progression, and you can't always stagnate. But I'd be happily be Rotherham going between the divisions, up and down, up and down. Funny enough, Rotherham lost 3-0 on Tuesday, and their fans were calling for Paul Warne's head. Football. Leslie Graves, would people really have the club overstretching themselves, just blindly carry on with the plans only to find the club in financial trouble? Yes, they would. Yes, they would. Adam Butler laid in the bath listening, not an image I wanted. Morning, keeping us honest, Gary. Molly Wallhead, thank you, Molly. Shane Clark, old friend, morning, Gary, well said, thank you, pal. Adam Bull, first I've heard of the foundation, maybe better communication is needed. Yep, 100%. And I think that's why Martin wants to come on the podcast. So we'll try and do that. And Jake, looking forward to chewing the fat with you later, guys. It's me and Jake on the podcast, recording at 2, hoping to have it out by 5. Hoping to. So look, that's turned into a longer chat than I thought. I'm actually just coming up this farm track. I'll turn right. My house is the white one through there. So nearly at home now. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Apologies to anybody if I've offended you. I've tried to just be real and honest. I'm going to leave this one out up, I think, and I might put it as a podcast. I might do. I might put it patrons only, which I tend to do with a lot of the pods now. But to the 55 people that have been watching across the different platforms, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate all the support that I get and the site gets. And up the imps.